If I had to make my first $100,000 from scratch, I'd do this. Let me say something that might challenge the way you think about money. If I lost everything today, no connections, no savings, no safety net, and I had to make my first $100,000 again, I wouldn't panic. I wouldn't chase quick money. I wouldn't jump from one idea to another. And I definitely wouldn't try to look successful before becoming successful. I would follow a strategy, a very specific strategy, because making your first $100,000 is not about luck. It's about control. Control over your time, control over your decisions, control over your environment, and most importantly, control over your mindset. Because before money changes your life, your thinking has to change first. This is something Robert Kiyosaki emphasized repeatedly. He said the biggest difference between the rich and everyone else is not income, it's how they think about money. So today I'm going to walk you through exactly what I would do. Step by step, no hype, no shortcuts, no unrealistic promises, just strategy. And if you're serious about building wealth, subscribe now. Because here, we don't chase money, we build leverage. And if you're ready, comment 100K mindset. Let's begin. 1. Cut all costs. The first thing I would do, cut everything. And I mean everything that does not move me forward. Because most people don't fail to make money, they fail to keep it. They earn, then spend, earn again, then spend again. It's a cycle, a silent cycle that keeps people stuck. But if your goal is to build your first $100,000, you cannot afford that. You need discipline, not the kind that looks good on the outside, but the kind that feels uncomfortable. Cancel unnecessary subscriptions. Stop impulse spending. Stop trying to impress people who are not building anything. Because here's the truth, every dollar you spend carelessly is a dollar that could have been used to create opportunity. Even Warren Buffett is known for living far below his means, not because he can't afford more, but because he understands something most people ignore. Wealth is built in the gap between income and expenses. The bigger the gap, the faster you grow. And this is where most people get it wrong. They think cutting costs means living a worse life. But it's the opposite. You're not reducing your life. You're upgrading your focus. Because when your expenses are low, you gain something powerful. Freedom. Freedom to take risks. Freedom to invest in yourself. Freedom to think long-term. And that's where real wealth begins. 2. Save time. Now let's talk about something even more important than money. Time. Because money can be lost and recovered. Time cannot. Most people don't realize how much time they waste. Scrolling endlessly, watching content without intention, overthinking decisions they never act on. But if your goal is $100,000, you cannot afford wasted time, because time is your primary asset, and how you use it determines how fast you move. And this is something Kobe Bryant understood at a different level. He didn't just practice, he obsessed over improvement. While others rested, he trained. While others hesitated, he executed. And that's why he became great. Not because of talent alone, but because of how he used his time. So if I had to start from scratch, I would become extremely protective of my time. I would eliminate distractions, not reduce them. Eliminate them. Because focus is rare, and rare things create value. And imagine this, if you dedicate 4 to 6 focused hours every day to building a skill or business, in 90 days you will outperform most people. Not because you're smarter, but because you're consistent. And consistency compounds. So don't ask, do I have time? Ask, where is my time going? Because that answer will explain your results. 3. Research a skill people already pay for. This is where everything starts to change. Because most people approach money the wrong way. They ask, what do I feel like doing? But the better question is, what are people already paying for? Because money does not reward effort, it rewards value. And value is determined by the market, not your opinion, not your intentions, the market. So if I had to start over, I wouldn't try to invent something new. I would study what already works. Skills like copywriting, sales, video editing, Digital marketing, content creation. These are not random. They are proven. They solve real problems. And where there are problems, there is money. This is something Niccolo Machiavelli understood in a different context. He studied power, not as people wished it worked, but as it actually worked. And that's the mindset you need. Stop chasing what sounds good. Start aligning with what works. Even Denzel Washington once said, "Ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship." Choosing a skill based on comfort is easy. Choosing a skill based on opportunity requires discipline. So here's what I would do. Spend time researching. Look at job platforms, freelance websites, business trends. Find where money is already flowing. Then position yourself there. Because once you align with demand, you remove guesswork. And when you remove guesswork, you accelerate results. So now you've done 3 critical things. You've cut unnecessary costs, you've taken control of your time, and you've identified a skill the market already values. At this point, most people stop. They hesitate, they doubt, they overthink. But this is where things start to separate. Because in part 2, we're going deeper. We're going to talk about why learning the right way changes everything, how to spend money without becoming reckless, and the one mistake that keeps people broke, even when they start earning more. If you've made it this far, comment, stay focused, because what comes next is where the $100,000 actually starts to become real. At this point, you've done what most people never do. You've cut unnecessary costs, you've taken control of your time, and you've identified a skill people are already paying for. That alone puts you ahead of the majority. But this is where the real work begins, because knowing what to do is not the same as doing it. Let's go deeper. 4, spend time learning. Once you've identified a skill, you commit, not casually, not when you feel like it, but consistently, because this is where most people fail. They start learning something new, but they don't stay long enough to see results. They get distracted, they switch skills, they doubt themselves, and in that process, they reset their progress over and over again. But mastery requires repetition. It requires focus. It requires patience. This is something Kobe Bryant embodied completely. He didn't just practice when it was convenient. He practiced when it was uncomfortable. Early mornings, late nights, relentless repetition. Because he understood something powerful. Excellence is built when no one is watching, and that applies directly to you if you spend 3 to 5 hours every single day. Learning and applying your skill, within 90 to 120 days, you become valuable. Not perfect, but valuable. And value gets paid. This is also where Robert Kiyosaki makes an important point. He says, the more you learn, the more you earn. But here's what many people miss. Learning without action is useless. So don't just study, apply, practice, create, execute, because execution turns knowledge into income. 5, spend money in the right places. Now this is where things get misunderstood. Because earlier we talked about cutting costs, but now we're talking about spending money. And the difference is critical. Cheap thinking says, don't spend. Strategic thinking asks, what return will this create? Because not all spending is equal. Some spending drains you, other spending builds you. For example, paying for entertainment you don't need. That's consumption. Paying for a course that teaches you a high-income skill, that's investment. Buying tools that save you time, investment. Learning from someone who has already achieved what you want, investment. Even Warren Buffett once said, the best investment you can make is in yourself. And he's right, because skills pay you for life. But here's the key, you must be intentional. Don't spend blindly. Don't chase shiny objects. Don't buy things just because they sound good. Evaluate everything. Ask, will this help me make money or improve my ability to make money? If the answer is yes, it's worth considering. If the answer is no, it's a distraction. Even Niccolo Machiavelli emphasized the importance of strategic resource allocation. He understood that power is not just about having resources, it's about using them wisely. And money works the same way. It's not about how much you have, it's about how you deploy it. 6, do not increase your lifestyle. This is the step that determines whether you actually keep your $100,000. Because making money is one thing. Keeping it, that's a completely different skill. Here's what happens to most people. They start earning more and immediately upgrade their lifestyle. Better clothes, better phone, more spending, and suddenly, they're back where they started, just with higher expenses. This is called lifestyle inflation. And it's one of the biggest traps because it feels like progress, but it's actually stagnation. This is where discipline matters most. Because when your income increases, you have two choices: increase your lifestyle or increase your assets. Most people choose lifestyle. The wealthy choose assets. This is something you can see in the mindset of Denzel Washington. He often talks about discipline, sacrifice, and long-term thinking. He didn't build success by chasing comfort. He built it by staying focused on growth. So if I had to make my first $100,000, I would keep my lifestyle the same, even as my income grows. Because the gap between what you earn and what you spend, that's where wealth is created. And the bigger that gap, the faster you move. Conclusion. So if I had to make my first $100,000 from scratch, this is exactly what I would do. Cut all unnecessary costs, take full control of my time, find a skill people are already paying for, commit to learning and applying it daily, spend money only where it creates growth, and keep my lifestyle low while my income rises. No shortcuts, no distractions, just strategy. Because wealth is not built by accident. It's built by decisions, daily decisions, consistent decisions, intentional decisions. And over time, those decisions compound. This is what separates people who struggle from people who build momentum. If this changed the way you think, comment, build discipline. Because at the end of the day, making $100,000 is not about luck. It's about who you become in the process. And once you become that person, $100,000 is just the